Welcome to the Writing Gals, where we are four sweet romance authors, staying up late and talking about questions and answers. You have questions, we have answers for you, hopefully. But first, we're going to talk about what we're doing this week. So let's start with Judy. What are you doing?
So right now, this last week I have been working on getting my book out. I actually uploaded the final version of Kissing the Boy Next Door to Amazon last night, and it will be live on Sunday. So that's been keeping me really busy. I didn't get any words written, and then I've also been working on the game chapters for my other book, and then I need to work on some of those conference classes I'm supposed to be teaching next week. So busy doing lots of stuff, and then my home life has been busy too with soccer, and so yeah, I'm looking
all
forward
the snow is melting, and so everything's starting up again.
Yeah,
we can no longer hibernate.
Too much going on. So hopefully someday it'll slow down. But
it's funny though, you don't realize how much work you actually do outside of just writing, being an author. Yeah, a self-published author.
Yeah, I forgot it. I haven't released a book since November, and so I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do this and that and that, and oh, I forgot I did it this way. So yeah, just reminding myself
all the things you have to do, and that you don't get any words done.
Yeah.
So perfect. Well, we're excited for your launch. It's the next book in the Sweetwater High series. So book number 3 is launching, and then Michelle's got book number 4 for us after that. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what you're doing this week, Michelle?
Trying to finish book number 4.
Yay!
Actually,
you've been super busy though. You have been crazy lady of the words.
Yeah, and well, as much as I can be, my life, like everybody else's, has been nuts lately. The end of school is just kind of crazy, and there's a lot of stuff going on, choir concerts, and all that fun stuff. So, parent teacher conferences. Can I just? No, we won't. This is a writing podcast. Okay. So, my book 4 is almost done. I got the email back from my editor, so we're all good to go with editing, and I'll be running on time. The pre-order's up, so no pressure there. And then I talked about this on our Facebook page, but I had my writing schedule all laid out for the next few months, and then I decided that I needed to follow the money, so to speak, and continue to write my content. Amy, just so you know, you're not muted. And go ahead and write the 4th book of my series instead of moving on to my fantasy. That doesn't sell as well, and so instead of making a big month-and-a-half-long project out of my fantasy book, I'm going to just write a chapter a week in it until it's done. So I'll be writing contemporary and young adult for the next 3 months with Regency and fantasy sprinkled all through it. I'm a crazy lady.
Sorry, this is like a glimpse into my life. My 8-year-old is, or 9-year-old is like, I'm coughing, I can't stop. How can I stop? So I apologize. I thought I had muted, but I had not. It was very exciting. Well, good for you, Michelle. And did you talk about launching your last book? Yeah, you just recently launched a book.
Yeah, I did. I launched Saved by the Billionaire, and it did really well. And it's still doing good. It's hanging out sticky in a pretty good place. And I actually had my previous release and this book right next to each other in the ranks for a while. They kind of became buddies on the charts, and they're kind of sticking together, which is okay by me because it's a pretty good place to be earning money. So yeah, they're doing really well. I'm happy with it.
Awesome. She's been like the Michael Jordan of fingers, or the fast. What's a fast runner's name? It's like he's like, on to the next book, on to the next book.
Usain Bolt, he's pretty fast.
There you go, Usain Bolt. You can tell we're not really sporty people. All right, what about you, Victorine?
I have not been writing. I have been working on the Nebraska Writers Guild Conference that we are doing next weekend, and I'm so excited. And we just have all kinds of stuff to get done for that, but because Charles and I are kind of in charge of it. But things are coming together, and we're super happy that we get to get together next weekend, and can't wait. And in between all that, hopefully I'll find time to write a little bit on my Sweetwater High book, because I'm number 7, I believe, in the series. So I have to finish that. And that's all I've been doing is conference stuff and squeaking in little bits of writing here and there.
Yay. We're very, very excited to be joining together, and then all of the lovely Writing Gals people who are coming out to see us and hear from us because they think we know something, and they're willing to pay to come see us. This should be very interesting.
Maybe at least they'll know that we'll have fun when we get together, huh?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We are chatty, goofy girls, so you'll have fun with us.
Do people still have time, and is there space to register for the conference, or is it getting just too far down to the wire?
No, people can still register if they are interested. We do have a few spots left. I think I capped it at 150, and I think I have 126 people registered. So a few spots left if anybody wants them.
Join us. It's going to be so much fun. I'm going to be the keynote speaker, and I'm gotta write that still. So, but I'm letting thoughts ruminate in my head on how I want to cover this. So it'll be really fun, and we're all teaching classes and hanging out and writing, and you get to be on our live podcast next week on Thursday. We'll all be in the same room together, all interrupting each other to talk first. So here we have a system. We like turn off our mic, and then when you're ready to talk, you turn your mic on, and then we go through that. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But for me, I finished the second book in my Braxton Brothers series. I have a little bit more of kind of editing to go through and tie up some loose ends. But I'm not going to be launching it until about May. So it's kind of really nice not to have to be like, okay, it's done. Now get it to this person, get it to this person, get it up, be done. You know, I'm kind of excited to be like, nope, I'm going to stockpile some of these books, and then I'm going to rapidly release them. And I think my stress level is going to go way down because I'll just focus on releasing one book, and then I'll know in 3 weeks the next book drops, and that's already done. And then 3 weeks, the next book drops. And so I'm really excited to kind of consolidate my time and then take this time to kind of grow my messenger list. I'm just started in messenger list and growing my newsletter, and just kind of taking April just to kind of get my everything together so that in May I can start back up again. So, and I'm also trying to take my author health into consideration. So I'm forcing myself not to work on Saturdays and Sundays, which is a huge thing for me because I literally have been working Saturdays at least for about 1.5 years. So it's kind of nice to get out and do stuff around my house that has been sitting around and not getting done. So taking all those things into consideration. And I was talking to my husband, and I'm a very much like, you put goals in front of me and I'm like, okay, let's get these all accomplished. And so we have a lot of financial goals that we have. And I'm like, I can't let up until I meet all these financial goals, until I realized, you know, I'm going to make money the rest of my life. I have my whole life to do all this stuff. Like, you can slow down a little, Amy. Like, you don't have to get it all done now. So trying to create a mindset where I'm actually like, can live my life and enjoy it and not feel like I'm running around with my head cut off. So that's pretty much what I'm up to. It's really nice not to be like, well, I just launched another book, because I'm like, no, I'm not launching any books for a couple months. So it'll be nice. So, okay, we have just a couple of question and answers tonight. So we're going to keep it brief. And these are questions. I think it's because I posted my questions too soon, and everybody then it got like lost in the scroll of our Facebook feed on our group. But that's okay. We don't mind it. We'll do as best we can to answer these questions tonight. So Inez Johnson asked, I'd love for you gals to talk about backlist marketing strategies and production schedules. Do you schedule time to sit down and make a plan for your backlist, or do you scramble to do something when sales dip? How far in advance do you plan your future books? And do you find yourself changing your publishing plans as the market shifts? So there's a lot of questions in there.
So I will talk a little bit about my backlist. I do both. I schedule promotions and I scramble to try and boost books when I feel like my sales dip. The best way, of course, is to plan in advance, because if you plan in advance, you can get better deals. So like, I really like putting a book free and buying up ads, and most of the places that work really well are like 30 days out. So if you want a good Robin Reads promotion, you have to book 30 days in advance. So it doesn't work real great to not be scheduled out. And if you're like, oh, sales are dipped now, I need the promotion tomorrow, you're probably not going to have a great promotion, because anybody that can book you within the next few days, they're the ones that take everybody, and then your book is listed with a billion other books, and those don't work as well as the ones that you plan in advance. So I'd say try, if you can, to plan in advance and plan out your year of what books you're going to put on sale and when and how you're going to market that.
I would say, though, not all free is equal. Not all free promos are equal. And I have had free promos that haven't done a lot for me. So you kind of have to, play around with it, figure out. I also notice if I try to do the same book too many times, the effectiveness gets less. So just keep that in mind too when you're doing that.
So I mentioned this in our group a couple weeks ago, where it's really clear as you go into this, like after a few years, that you can't do much like on this day to make money on this day. Everything we do as authors is always projected into the future, whether it's getting words on the page, or whether it's setting up promotions, or whether it's collecting people for our newsletter. Every single thing that we do is always looking forward to what we can do. And if you're talking specifically about when you know that you're going to have dips in those sales, and when you're going to have kind of lag times between releases, especially, it's really good to look at them ahead of time. And I think Inez asked this question, right? I think she's the one that has been showing the YouTuber that has this really great calendar planning thing. She mentioned it in her podcast with us, didn't she? So you can look on our group page. I think she probably has something there on it, or can, if she's listening. Yeah, so I think, so last year I knew that Christmas was a time when sales can really die down if you don't have something for Christmas going. And so I made a big push to get several Christmas titles out so that I could get through that wave. And not only did my sales not go down, but I was finally able to break my 10,000 mark that I've been aiming for all year. And then I also this year knew that February and March is always my lowest months every year. If you look at my sales, it's just February and March are just hard months in general. And so I had a few releases, and they were kind of bummer releases compared to other releases that I've had, but I still ended up having two $5,000 months, which for me, if that is going to be my low months from now on, I'm really comfortable with that. And then just look ahead and say, this time of the year doesn't do good. What can I do to kind of give it a boost so that I'm not falling into nothing? And then if you know it's going to be 3 months between releases, then say, okay, well, I need to run some promotions between releases. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just look forward all the time.
Yeah, I'm a lot like you guys. I plan like a year in advance usually, because I write slow, and so I'm like, well, I'm gonna do these 4 books next, and just kind of do that. And then also like Victorine's promotions, I for the backlist, I try to switch out which book I'm promoting to keep those up. So yeah.
And I would say for me, I've been thinking a lot about this, talking to a lot of authors about this. And the guy I take or who advises me for Facebook ads, he makes a good point. And Facebook ads are finicky, and like Victorine can attest to, they will shut your account down, and there's a strong chance that they might not start you up again. But it's finding different strategies that will work for you outside of that. If it's AMS ads, or if it's holding on and rapidly releasing. I was really drawn to this idea of, well, if I spend, I don't have to necessarily consistently make the same amount of money each month, but if I could have if I could take 3 months and do a lot of writing and then take 5 months and do a lot of releasing, I would do that. I would change that 3 months for those 5 months there's going to be less stress for me. Because if you promote book 1 and you have book 2 in 2 weeks ready to drop, and book 3 in 3 weeks, and then 4, in 4 weeks, and you kind of can space it out a little more, then you're promoting, all you're doing is focusing on promoting book 1. By the time book 3 comes out, you can do a free day on the book 1, and that will help push through to book 3. So there's a lot of different strategies. So one of mine is obviously with Facebook ads. From now on, every book I have, I can just consistently have an ad on it, spending $25 a day, and I'm making $45. And as long as I can keep my ads running on my books, then my backlist won't really ever dip down. And then taking my other backlist and running promos. So I just got done running a big promo where I did 5 free days on one book, because I got a book bub for it. And 3 of those days I discounted my other books in the series down to 99 cents. And on my book bub day, 2 of my books that have been out for a long time got back out under 1,000. Now they're kind of settling, and I'm interested to see where they're gonna end up. But that really helped push my entire series to be visible. So, and I think I gave away something like 38,000 books or something like that. So these are now 38,000 readers that are new to me, who will come back hopefully and go through and buy my rest of my books and into my series, and they'll join my newsletter and all that fun stuff. So I think trying to take advantage of all these free days, I'd never thought before to have a discount on the rest of the series. I've always just discounted the one book to free, but maybe, save up some money, get as many promos as you can, and ask for as many newsletter swaps, and really hit those 3 days, or you could do 2 days. I think 5 was a little long, because by day 5, I was down to 1,000 downloads. And I was kind of I'd rather I'd done 3 days or maybe 4 days, but 5 felt like it was dragging just a little bit. So I'm kind of, thinking in the future, I'm going to slow that down. So, and like what Michelle was saying was I like watching Chris Fox, because he set out his whole year, and he said, this is the time I'm going to release each of these books. And then he could see, okay, well, if I'm going to release these 3 books in these 3 months, then I have this 4th month where nothing going on. Oh, I'll put out a box set. So I think that's also another thing you can take into consideration, where if you're well, I'm not going to release in 2 months, I'll put a box set out in that other time, and then I will have a new release. Although I don't think Amazon pushes box sets like they push new releases, which is why you can't link them to series and stuff like that. But you can do promotions, and you can have another revenue source of income. So there's lots of things that you can do to help mitigate the time difference, or the launch difference and all that kind of stuff. So this is an interesting thing. I think maybe we should just touch on real quick. So she asked, do you find yourself changing your publishing plans as the market shifts? What do you guys think about that question?
I am, to a degree, because I'm still trying to decide what contemporary series I'm going to write in the fall. And I have planned to do a small town all brothers series, and I am watching the market really closely to see if I want to stick with that idea. That's what my newsletter has said that they would prefer, but that was a minimal amount of readers compared to what is out there in the market. And so I am just going to be paying really close attention to what's selling over the summer before I get going on that series, and I will shift it if I need
to. What would you shift it to?
Well, if I can see that, for example, if billionaires are still selling, then I might put more time into writing a 5th book in my billionaire series before jumping into a new series, for example. Or I might go towards, a fake marriage series, or stick with something more suspenseful, which has been doing really well. My readers are really liking my suspense romance. And so, yeah, I'm just going to be watching to see, if I've had a surprising amount of people say that they really liked the fact that my heroine had a baby in this one. And that one's always been something I've kind of chuckled at. the billionaire's secret baby. Sorry if that's anybody's title, but I mean, just like the tropes, the baby tropes was just never kind of my trope. But I kind of enjoyed writing the story, and my readers are going crazy over the baby thing. So I'm like, yeah.
Mhm.
But I will shift it. I will shift it to something else if the market's looking like. I mean, Amy's Brother series seems to be doing really well too. So it's just just watching, and I think we should always be doing that. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I watch the market and I do change my plans depending on what I'm seeing. I think it's smart. I don't think there's any reason to plan your year out or 2 years and just say, well, it's written down, so I have to write it. You know what I mean? There's no reason you have to stick with your plan. Unless you're passionate about what you're writing and you're like, I have to get this story out of my head, then fine, write it. But don't be inflexible just because you wrote it down somewhere.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I think for me, I let my tropes kind of shift, but I don't let myself get distracted by new shiny things. So I will force myself to finish a series because I know in the long run it's probably going to make me more money, and I think it would be harder to get back into it. So my rule is 5, except for my rules book. I don't have a 5th book on that one yet. But I think I will stick to something. But if I feel like a new trope is kind of making itself more popular, and for me, I watch the tropes of spicy because I go to the top 100. What tropes are selling in the top 100? Some of them I can't really work into making sweet, but like Michelle, I'm not surprised at all that a baby is doing well because there's so many secret baby, secret pregnancies, secret all those kinds of books that do really, really, really well. If you go even into the top 100, you don't even like of the entire store, you'll notice that is a big thing, as well as interconnecting series. So I think as long as you plan on a series that's interconnecting, I think you're going to be doing pretty well because most tropes do well. So
yeah, I agree. And I like what you said about like you finish a series, and with like me, like my series is a high school series, and so I may like plan to write this many books in with these characters, but as the market shifts, I can always change the tropes that those characters will be dealing with and use a more popular trope depending on what the time is.
One thing that I think is a good idea, since we're talking about tropes and marketing and sticking with like your old series or starting a new series, is that I've been having fun playing with new tropes in a working series. And if that trope, if I like it, if I enjoy writing it, and my readers are responding well to it, then I can take that trope and make it like the main trope of a new series. So like it could be an underlying trope for whatever you're working on now. So I'm getting to where I really like experimenting with different tropes that way. So the trope in my last book, the main one, was billionaire and kind of like a bodyguard suspense kind of thing. But then I also played with marriage of convenience and secret baby, and those were fun. And then in my next book in this series, I'm going to play around with the whole royalty thing because I've never done the royalty trope. So I'm doing Saved by a Prince next, and I get to do the whole inventing a country and doing the royalty thing and see how I like that. And if it goes really well, I could totally see doing a whole, royalty series. So trying out new tropes in a small scale before moving them up to a major series, I think is a good idea.
mm-hmm. Perfect. Cool. Well, Inez, you always give us really good questions. So that kind of took up like 10 minutes. We had so much to answer for you. So Danielle Ari asks, what does your revision process look like after you receive your editorial letter back? More specifically, how do you prioritize your editor's comments and convert them into action steps for the revision?
For me, I always take the easiest ones first, and then I save the hard ones for last. My editor doesn't usually give me like a editorial letter. She just makes comments all throughout, and I'll just go through and check off the ones that I want to first and get through. And I don't always, necessarily take everything that that she says, but if it's something that someone else has mentioned, then I'll definitely do it. And if I agree with it, then I'll definitely make those changes as well. So I don't know if there's anything else to that question.
Yeah. So I have 2 different levels of editing, and one of them is more of a developmental edit. And in those, I definitely take, you know, what my editor is saying into careful consideration, and I will make more broad changes to my story at that level, obviously. But once it gets down to my line and copy editor, we've worked on, I don't know, like 8 books together now. And so she knows my style, I know her style. And so that's a pretty seamless project. And just every once in a while, there will be a suggestion that she makes, and I'm like, no, I don't agree with that one. But for the most part, we're getting to where we know each other. And so line and copy edits is mostly just like, you know, seamless, just, yeah, let's do this now. So.
I'm so sorry. I have a crying baby, so I had to go check on her. So I would agree with what these ladies said, and I would say if you feel in your gut that the comment is not right for your story, they're not gospel. You don't have to take it. That's why it's always good to get beta readers in the beginning. So if 3 or more people say something, then you should make that change, and if not, stick with your guns and the way you wanted to write your story. I don't know if you guys said that or not, so I'm sorry.
I was listening to 20 Books Vegas conference from last year that they all have uploaded on YouTube, and there's a class called Writing into the Dark, and I'm sorry I can't remember who the name of the guy was, but I think you'd probably recognize him. He's the one that came up with the sacred cows of writing thing. You know, have you heard of that, where he's dispelling a lot of the kind of myths in the writing world? And he kept talking a lot about his opinion that we shouldn't let editors change our stories too much. And so if you're interested, I would just go look up on YouTube the 20 Books Vegas class called Writing into the Dark and listen to that. It's worth 38 minutes while you're folding laundry or something.
Cool. That sounds exciting. I'm going to go check it out.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I always double time it though, so it won't be 38 minutes for me.
Get there next to the fast food Judy.
Yep.
Okay, so author Layla Holt asks, series question. Do you decide from the beginning how many books will be in the series, or do you just keep adding as long as readers like them?
So far I'm just writing them as long as my readers like them. I think my Ridgewater High will definitely be at least 6 books, but if they're still reading them and they're still doing well, and I have more characters that I am passionate about their stories, and I'll just keep adding to it. So that's how I do it.
I think it's different if you're doing standalone series, obviously. So if you have like a series where they're all connected story to story, like in fantasy or something, then I think it helps to have an end in mind. But when you're doing standalones, you can pretty much just go on and on and on as long as you want to. And it just comes down to writer and reader exhaustion at some point. So for me, I get bored if I'm writing the same thing over and over again. So I can get like 3 books out, maybe 4, and then I'm like, I'm ready to move on. But you can always come back later and add a book to the end of the series. So, in fact, I very much advise doing that.
I would say, like, for me, I definitely have a 5-book series because there's only 5 siblings in my brother's series. But I think in the end, I could always write in another family inside of the town to write about. The thing that I get, and I don't know if readers feel this way, but I kind of feel this way, like when people start adding more and more siblings to it, it just seems kind of too unbelievable that all 7 of them need to find love. So I want to kind of make it a little more believable than not believable. But I'm sure readers love to see the same family members. So, you know, maybe for me, it would be like more that they fall in love with the town and people inside the town, that they get excited that they're going to see, you know, oh yeah, I remember that coffee shop, or I remember that quirky, weird guy. He was in this book. You know what I mean? So I would say if you're going to do a series, you could, you know, that you want to last a really long time, maybe do it a little more like Judy, where they're not related. Because I just have a hard time believing that they're all need to be married and they're all super sexy and they're all, you know, sports
And
stars
it's
or
this
something. I'm
huge
like,
family, and they're all old enough to find love.
I know. I'm having a hard time with that one. I had to like go back and I'd be like, okay, this one's this old, this one's this old, and they all have to be like in, you know, 2 years apart.
They're twins and they're triplets, and
Or you
And they're all
have to,
single.
this is the Octomom.
you have to write the story about the seventh ugly duckling sibling, like the one that's not sexy.
There's always one. I was watching the Shark Tank and there's like the Gronkle brothers or something, and they're literally four of them are all big, huge football players, and then they have this little brother who's like shorter than all of them, and he's the one that's created this like thermos that he wanted them to sell. And of course they got a deal because they, you know, here's all of his brothers that all have like the giant rings, you know, they all won the Super Bowl or whatever. And so, but you just felt bad. You're like, this is the only thing this poor brother has, because all his other brothers are like giant football stars. Anyways, hopefully he doesn't watch our podcast. So, okay. Awesome. So Deborah Hathaway asks, when writing a series where the main characters for one book appears as minor characters, oh, look at this. Everyone's talking about series. As minor characters in others, how much information can be shared about the characters to avoid spoilers in other books in order for them to be read in any order?
So for me, I treat other characters in my books like backstory, right? So right now I'm working out in my brain my next book in my high school series, and all of this stuff that happened between my first two characters is just backstory. And I'm going to treat it as, you know, stuff that I can sprinkle in if I want to, but the main objective of the story is not about them anymore. It's about the next people. So I really don't think it has to be like, oh, you can't, you know, you can't know that they got together, because obviously every romance ends with them together. So I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, that's what I do too. Just little bits of information, like they might know that they are together, or you might know that they're interested in each other, or that there's something, but I don't focus on them because the other books are not theirs. So
what I like to do, because in my series right now, I'm introducing the hero of the next book and the book before, is I give that person like just enough interest. So I'm not giving you lots of details about them, but I'm making them kind of stand out and from the other side characters in a way that is attractive and makes you think, huh, you know, but not enough to make you stop pushing forward with the story that you have going on. So, you know, just like a line of dialogue that's really witty, and, you know, some like piece of description that makes you like, okay, she didn't describe anybody else in the story as, you know, quite like, you know, that they're a little bit above the common scrub, right? So that's just what I like.
And I think for me, I'm a little different than Judy in the sense that mine are actually related. And the whole premise of my series is that the brothers have all come back home, and that they fall in love in some sort of way inside of their hometown of Honeygrove. So, and that's the draw I want to bring these people back into this town. So they're going to see in later books, they're going to see their brothers with their significant other. But what I did try to do was not necessarily close the brothers of the originals other stories. I didn't necessarily close those perfectly, so that I can answer more questions from the first book throughout the series. And I really expect people to start with book one and then work their way through, even though they can be read as standalones. And standalones in the more sense of, do we have a complete beginning, middle, and end for that romance? But this book I just finished, Her Best Friend, I did take them out of Honeygrove for a little bit of the story, because I wanted to kind of get them out of the other romance. So they actually go to a wedding. He pretends to be her boyfriend, and they go to a wedding, and then the romance happens there. So there's always that a possibility that if it's just too much in the same area, you can bring them out, or you can have half the book is them before they even get, which is the book I'm writing right now. half of the book is going to be them on their way to Honeygrove, and then they get to Honeygrove, and then they fall in love. So you can kind of play with that depending on what's connecting them. Is it their brothers? Is it a town? Do they all come to the town to fall in love? Are they all going to the same high school? Because if they're all going to the same high school and they kind of know each other, then they aren't really going to play a part. But if they're more like family, obviously they're going to know each other, because the draw of reading a Brothers series is seeing them all interact together. And so I'm just being like, this is this brother and this is this brother, but they never talk and they never see each other. It just doesn't. I just don't think you're going to find a lot of people who are going to want to read that, you know? So, good. Anyone else have anything they want to add to that, or we can move on to the last question? Okay. So this is kind of just a side one. Laura Patillo asks, since Facebook paperbacks aren't exclusive, do you try to market them in any way outside of the Zon?
I'm doing good to get a paperback done.
Yeah, I do not market my paperbacks. I mean, you're pretty much hand selling your paperbacks, because we as indies do not have the distribution that traditionally published authors have. You really kind of have to hand sell the paperbacks. And for me, it's just not worth my time. You know, when I was a brand new author, I was super excited to have paperbacks. And so, yeah, I did every single author event. I tried to peddle them to stores, and just found that it was way too much work for what I was getting for it. So I don't really push them.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the best way to sell paperbacks is to sell ebooks, because just get visibility. I sell a lot of paperbacks of my YA books, not really of my adults. So I would say before you even look into paperbacks, probably audiobooks would be the next biggest moneymaker for me over paperbacks. So if you're looking at another revenue stream, I don't necessarily think paperbacks would be the way to go. I think audiobooks would be worth the investment. So, Judy, do you have something to say?
Oh, I'm just the same. I don't really do a whole lot with paperbacks, but they sell on Amazon, so that works for me.
Yeah. So we're gonna cut it short, because if you can hear, my baby is crying in the background. So, do one of you guys want to sign us off and talk about our plan going forward in May?
Yeah, we do have a couple live questions. Should we do those?
We can handle it for you, Amy.
Okay. Okay. So Caroline asks us, what are the best months to release, especially as a new author?
September, October.
Yeah, I did mine in October, my first ones, and worked for me. But then also last summer was pretty good for me too, last July. So
yeah, for me, I really haven't found a bad month to release, just because, I mean, it really depends on what you're writing, you know, and what your market is like. But if I'm writing to market, my 2 market books just release pretty well. My For Love books just always don't do as well. But, you know, I knew that going into them. So I don't like to hold on to a book. I wouldn't ever finish a book in January and say, well, the best book, you know, the best month to publish is August, so I'm going to wait. You know, I want those sales, and I want that hype going. So I'm too impatient, maybe.
Yeah. I would definitely, if it's ready, publish it, unless you're going to rapidly release and have all.
I was going to say, like, if I was able to stockpile a series, get them written over the summer, and then release September, October, November, you know, maybe January, because January is all those 4 months are 5 months are my biggest sellers every year. The market's just really strong then. But yeah, I mean, anytime you release, you can do good and then build on it, right? If you release a book in June and the market's not super great, and you keep releasing and just building your momentum and finding your readers, then when you hit that big part of the year, then you'll just be in even better shape. So
yeah. Okay. And then Well asked, what is the reason for life?
Yeah, the reason for life is his parents got together and had some fun one night. I think he means what's the meaning of life, but we don't have enough time for that.
And I don't know if we all have the answers. Okay. And then Christy asks us, So she says, but I wonder, is advertising on Facebook a waste of time now? It seems like so many people are either canceling their accounts or rarely there now. And I don't really use Facebook ads, so I might not be the best person to ask.
It's interesting because people say that, and yet every single time somebody puts out a new report about where the readers are, where readers find their books, Facebook still continues to dominate everything else. In fact, I saw one where more people found their books on Facebook than by just browsing Amazon. And so I think it's still a player, no matter.
Yeah, I do too. I am not happy that they froze my account. So I'm a little bit mad at Facebook right now. But if you can test your ads and if you can find the combination that gets you a really low cost per click, but people respond to and they buy your book through that, I think that's the success of Facebook ads, right? And so just putting up an ad and saying, gee, it didn't do so good, isn't going to help you at all. What you need to do is methodically change certain things and test and keep testing to make sure you're improving that cost per click. So if you can make it work for you, it's really great.
I mean, when you think about something like Facebook, even if 1 million people leave Facebook in a year, how many are still on there? You know, how many, when you can go through in your ads and figure out that just by clicking, you know, Hallmark Channel and a few other things, you can have over 2 million people to build an audience with just from like that one interest. Yeah, there's still, I mean, people might be leaving it, but there is a huge pool of people still on there.
Yeah, I'm on there too much. I need to pull back. So definitely people are there. Sorry. So that's all the questions, and I'm going to cough, so I'm going to turn off my mic.
Oh, sorry. I'll go ahead and just say, if you guys are thinking on the fence of wanting to come to the conference next week, go ahead and sign up. We would love to see you guys. We're going to have so much fun together. And subscribe to our channel if you enjoy watching our videos, and join our Facebook group. It's called The Writing Gals, and we will see you over there and talk to you next week.